Hi folks, I'm Susan Stearns, the Executive Director of NAMI New Hampshire, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. NAMI New Hampshire is a grassroots organization working to improve the lives of all people affected by mental illness and suicide through support, education, and advocacy. Today, I'm here with my friends and colleagues to talk about a really important topic: youth and young adult suicide prevention. Here in New Hampshire, suicide is the second leading cause of death for those between the ages of 10 and 34. And we know that these last 2 years through this pandemic have taken a toll on everyone's mental health. And we see this with increased rates of self-injurious behavior, especially amongst young adult females, as well as increased suicidal ideation amongst our young adult females, our young teens, and also especially young Black males. I'm really grateful today to be joined by my friends here, Susan, Lori, and Catie, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the work that they've been doing on this really important issue. Susan, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the project?
Sure, thank you. My name is Susan Ward. I am the Suicide Prevention Coordinator with NAMI New Hampshire. I'm also the manager of the Garrett Lee Smith Grant. And the Garrett Lee Smith Grant is named after the Oregon Senator's son, Garrett, who died by suicide just before he turned 22 years old. And so the grant focuses on reducing suicide in youth and young adults and improving cross-collaboration and improving pathways to care.
Great. And then, Lori, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing?
Sure. I'm Lori Belanger, and I work at NHTI, which is a recipient of the Garrett Lee Smith Grant. So we do outreach, prevention, and we have a peer counseling program trying to educate staff, faculty, and students about how to recognize when someone is in emotional distress and how to respond to it in a way that protects people.
And Catie, you want to introduce yourself and tell us about what you've been doing?
Of course. I'm Catie Gaudette. I am a peer counselor at NHTI alongside with Lori. And I'm there as a support system for students who need someone to talk to, who want to talk to someone, who just might not be comfortable going to authority figure, and just to be able to have a one-on-one conversation with a peer, really no strings attached, just to be a support system.
How long have you been doing that?
I am in my second semester of college, and I've been doing this since about midway through first semester, so probably around October, November of 2021, and I've had a blast doing it, putting on different events and being able to really connect with the NHTI community.
That's wonderful. Susan, can you tell us more about what you're doing in local communities through the Garrett Lee Smith Youth Suicide Prevention Grant?
Sure. So we work with 3 different regions. We work with the Capital Region, the North Country, and Carroll County. And through that work, we partner with the regional public health networks. We also have 2 care liaisons, one at Northern Human Services, one at Riverbend. And then we also partner with NHTI and White Mountains Community College.
Great. And how long has that been going on, that project?
We are in year 3 of a 5-year grant.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's really great news. And so why did you choose to focus on these specific areas in the state?
So these specific areas have a higher than the national average rate of suicide among youth and young adults. So that's where we wanted to focus, improving those pathways of care, where we wanted to improve that cross-collaboration.
And what does cross-collaboration really look like? Tell us about that.
Sure. So we involve the regional public health networks and other community members. We meet monthly, and we involve the schools, community mental health centers. We involve first responders, healthcare, a lot of different community sectors. And we also have our care liaisons reach out to any youth or young adults that are at high risk for suicide. They typically work with these high risk people for 30 to 90 days, and really just helping them stabilize and also connect them to community resources and other mental health resources.
Great, great. And so, Lori, NHTI is one of the partners, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit of what that looks like there on campus?
Sure. We have a couple of different areas that we focus on, and one is just increasing connections and pro-social behaviors for young adults. So we host, the peer counselors host an event every month. It might be pizza and movies. It always seems to involve ice cream, I think.
Some type of food.
Yeah. We've had a bonfire and, just conversation about, the students are really committed to destigmatizing the conversation, and so we've trained the Student Nurses Association in the NAMI Connect program, as well as all the resident assistants and several faculty members, so the conversation's happening on the campus. And the second part of the program, which is most dear to my heart, is the peer counselors. They meet scheduled appointments, they have drop-in hours, they run groups, they have hours in the residence halls as well as in the academic study center. So there's a number of different ways, and online as well for students who don't come to campus. So we're trying to have the conversation, but also make sure that people have someone to talk with.
Well, and you mentioned students that don't come to campus, so I know there's a large commuter student population at
Right.
NHTI. So you really, how do you do that?
We've been lucky enough that we've had several peer counselors, Katie's one of them, that don't live on campus, that have really taken the lead with that, how to reach out and become a more welcoming community campus in terms of talking about mental health and, who can you go to on campus if you just need to talk. And we've had students doing counseling via Zoom or the telephone, or sometimes commuters will come onto campus to meet with their peer counselor and then, make some other connections as well.
So, Catie, do you want to talk a little bit about that work? It sounds like it's really important work you're doing.
Of course it is. I've been luckily enough to be able to be a part of this program, and one of the really main things that I enjoy is I like talking. I'm a big talker, and being able to talk and to listen to people is my way of de-stressing. And that's a huge thing that I'm working on with some of my peers, is finding a way to take a breather, decompress, and just take a minute for yourself. And I've learned a lot from those people without them even knowing, and it's something that I can be like, hey, like, this is what I'm doing, it's really cool, and I love being a part of something that means so much to so many people.
So, Lori, you're the mentor to these young peer counselors?
Oh.
Is that, and
they to me. It's weird. You may have noticed there's a few years between us. But it's been...
I thought you were sisters.
Look at us. It's been really, really gratifying to work with the energy and the passion and the compassion that they have for each other and for their fellow students. I had a situation today with one of the peer counselors that a person had emailed her some thoughts of not being safe today. And, her training kicked right in. She reached out. She and I together met with the student, got some things in place. I know with certainty I would never have known about that person. They weren't someone who was going to reach out to an adult on campus, but they reached out to their peer counselor because they had met with them before. So I feel, as though their web is really out there, and it's protective, and it just makes you feel like things are a little bit safer.
So, Susan, what are some of the warning signs that folks should be looking for if they're concerned? The kinds of things that Catie has been trained and that Lori's probably doing all the time on campus.
Right. Great question. And so there can be several warning signs. I think one of the things that stands out to me is if your child, friend, colleague, whoever it might be, is acting different than they usually are. And that could look like not taking care of themselves and their hygiene. It could be either lack of sleep, too much sleep. It could be isolating, withdrawing, not doing activities that they were once doing. It could be taking part in risky behaviors such as fast driving or things that aren't typically in their behavior that you've seen. Also, any type of increased alcohol or drug use. So those are just a few things that are out of the norm of what you would expect to see from that particular individual.
And then along with those sort of risk factors, there are protective factors, right?
Right.
And what are some of the things that are help people have better mental health and feel better and take care of themselves?
Right. So I think definitely what I'm hearing from the peer counselors is they have a trusted adult to go to turn to, and know that they could talk to somebody. Strong family support, strong community support. Having a positive school climate if it's a student in school, having friends to turn to and other supports like that. I think they're really important. So, just by hearing that alone, I hear that a student knew they had somebody that they could turn to and trust and immediately was able to get their needs met.
And Lori, in terms of your work at NHTI, have you seen an impact over the last couple of years with COVID and the pandemic, and as you've done this work? And
Yes,
young people?
I was really interested when you spoke about young women being at higher risk for suicide than perhaps they had been in the past, and that's the level of anxiety, self-reported anxiety, and students who are screened for depression is so high right now, particularly in young women. And I worry about the isolation that, a couple of years of their development has been really isolating. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's even more important that we talk about it and that we say, this isn't how it was supposed to be, but here's what we can do together about it, and make it okay to say, I feel really alone in all of this. And I think so much growth happens just from encouraging people to be vulnerable and take a chance and talk to someone.
And Catie, are you finding that your fellow students are more open?
Oh yeah. In the beginning, we have office hours now, or drop-in hours, where students can come in and just talk without any appointments. We have scheduled hours throughout the week. And in the beginning, it was a little slow, and as expected. But then as time went on, I was able to connect with other students and other peers, and we've had a great turnout with just people dropping by and saying, hey, I'm having a rough time. And I can be there and I can say, let's talk. Let's talk this through. And that's been really nice to be able to see that kick off.
And what about students that perhaps aren't as willing to engage? Do you have
Those are the ones that keep us up at night. We have a pretty robust social media presence. We're always putting together messages of hope, messages of support, and always pushing the resources. Here's the 800 number, here's the text line, which seems to be much more in the wheelhouse of the 18 to 24-year-olds, as well as just promoting the idea that, wait till tomorrow, come and talk to someone, speak to campus safety. That's the other thing I have to say is the campus safety at NHTI all got trained in the NAMI Connect program, and they're all very committed to having the conversation, who's being called into the residence hall at midnight, it's not me and it's not Catie. It's the campus safety staff, and they're really committed to taking good care of the mental health of the students.
That's wonderful. So it sounds like it
It is
really is a, college-wide endeavor that you've undertaken here.
And I think we've got a lot of room to grow, but I feel like it's the right climate for that. The convocation speaker, which convocation in the academic world is a big thing, is going to be Kevin Hines in person. I'll say it again, in person, in September, and that he's going to reach an audience of so many people, everyone from the more traditional professor that might be a little reticent to have this conversation, but I know by the end of the day, those people will be changed by it, and we can have even more of these conversations and interventions, and it truly can be a place of care for everybody.
Well, that's really exciting.
It's very exciting.
Are you looking forward to convocation, Catie?
Oh, I'm thrilled. He was originally going to come in March.
Yeah.
March, but then there were some complications with how many people we could have with the whole COVID thing, and actually being able to have him be the convocation speaker, I think is a lot better than just having like 10 people see him and the rest be on Zoom. To be able to have the whole school there, I'm thrilled. I'm really excited for it.
Will this be the first convocation since COVID in person?
I think so.
I was just thinking,
I
those
think
are like, oh, it doesn't sound like something we typically do anymore.
So far, so good.
So,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's very
Fingers
exciting.
crossed.
That's wonderful
Yeah.
that Kevin is coming to campus. So
Yeah, we're
that's-
pretty
it
excited.
is. Yeah. Susan, Lori has mentioned a couple times the Connect Suicide Prevention Program. Do you want to talk a little bit about what Connect training is?
I will, yes. The Connect training, there are quite a few. The Connect Suicide Prevention Program, we have Connect Postvention, we have a Connect Youth Leader, Connect Young Adult. All of them focus on suicide prevention, but really training people how to recognize warning signs and how to become an expert in not just connecting with a person, but getting that person connected with the right resources.
Great. And if someone wants to learn more about Connect, what's the best way to do that?
You can definitely go on to the NAMI New Hampshire website. There are several resources, not just the Connect resources, but a lot of different support groups. There are support groups for parents, for caregivers. There are also just a wealth of information if you're looking for support. So, yeah.
Great. That's fabulous. One of the things that you mentioned, Lori, was both I think the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline you mentioned. I want to just share, I know that we'll probably be sharing that at the end as well, but that number is 1-800-273-8255. And then you mentioned also texting, the crisis text line.
Yes,
You wanna
741. It's the same trained professionals that you would get if you called the 800 number, but our young adults are much more comfortable texting, and there's a privacy factor, but it's also just the world that they live in. Mm-hmm. This one texts me all the time. And I think that it's just another barrier removed. Like sometimes it's really hard to talk on the phone about your feelings, and so it's much easier. So I really appreciate that we've had that resource.
And Catie, do you find that your peers prefer the crisis text line, or have you heard anyone from anyone who's used it?
If any teenagers, anything like me, which I'm sure they are, definitely texting is a lot easier than vocally saying it, because sometimes it's hard to be able to vocalize your feelings and really come to terms with it, and when it comes out of your mouth, it can be a lot more shocking to some people, to their own thoughts and feelings, and to be able to just text, it's a lot easier to think about what you're going to say, and to be able to not have that, what if someone thinks I'm crazy or something, which they don't, of course they don't, it's a lot easier to text someone and not have to hear a voice, if that makes any sense,
It does.
than to just be able to get a response back.
And Lori, have you seen that the advance of technology has made a difference in terms of what you're seeing with your students and their mental health?
Yes. I won't say that I think it's a positive difference, though. I think that social media has allowed young adults who don't yet have the maturity skills maybe to manage everything that's in the palm of their hand all the time. So young people will say things to each other and about each other that they would not do in person, they would not say in person. And so I think that it's become a rather isolating thing. I think obviously technology is a gift, but I think that it needs to be tempered with a lot of education and supervision. So while I appreciate like the talk and text line is technology in a positive way, I feel like navigating social media and some of the platforms out there has been a real detriment to people who are already vulnerable.
Oh, Catie, you're the demographic that we're talking about.
Oh yeah.
What's your experience with social media?
It can be hard. And I feel like a lot for young females, the push to be, like on social media and stuff, to be perfect, to have perfect hair, to have perfect skin, to be super, super skinny, be a size 0, is something that's really forced on us through social media, whether we recognize it or not. And that can be really hard, and that's really what I appreciate about the body positive movement. And it's just to be comfortable in your own skin. And that can be really hard for young females because we look up to these models, we look up to these famous celebrities as people who we want to be, but we have to take a step back and think that we're our own person and that it doesn't matter what those people look like because half the time those pictures are photoshopped and life isn't photoshopped. And that's something I think young females especially really need to understand, and it can be hard, but we are taking a step in the right direction, and that's really what I like to see.
Wow. Well, Susan, you get to do this work every day, working with young adults like Catie, and they're committed mentors and leaders like Lori. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like in other parts of the state.
So I get to work with these amazing people who are doing incredible things. And I wish actually I knew more about the other regions that we're not working with, because it is a passion of mine to do this work. And when I learn of a school that has a certain program, such as Getting to Why, and they're really looking at their data, it's exhilarating to see that they're actively involved in their own mental health. They're a part of breaking the stigma, and it's exciting to see.
It really is. So, Catie, if there's one thing that you would want other young adults to take away from this conversation today, what would that be?
I think the main point that I really think should be a big takeaway is that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to realize that your feelings are real, they're not fake, and that you can reach out to a friend, to someone at your school, to a coworker or a boss, and you can have a conversation with them, and that it's okay to have that conversation. And like the big saying goes, it's okay to not be okay. And we just need to be able to have that conversation, and that's really what I would like people to take away from today is for people to know that it's okay to talk. There shouldn't be this stigma behind mental health and mental health crises, and that we're taking it one step at a time, and we will be better at being able to talk about things.
You give me hope.
Thank you.
And Lori, if there's something that you want to share, what can we all do to help prevent youth and young adult suicide?
I just keep being reminded of the power of just simple kindness. We don't know ever what's going on in someone else's life, in their heart, and they might be having a really bad day, but, you know, hold the door for someone, admire something about them, or take a minute when you pass someone in the hallway and say, "How are you?" Listen to the answer. And I think that the greatest thing I've learned from this group of students is the power of genuinely caring about other people. You don't need a degree and you don't need a lot of time. You just need to really care. And I think I share your hope. I say to them, if we can just hang on till you guys are out there in the world working, things are going to be okay. And I believe with all my heart that they are the gift for all of us.
Absolutely. And Susan, what would you want to make sure people take away around how to prevent suicide and support that work?
Everything that they said, and you know, I love that Lori mentioned listening, active listening, and to remember there's power in vulnerability, and I say that a lot, but there really truly is, and I think when we're comfortable doing that, in being vulnerable and talking about our feelings, that's when we can break the stigma, and that's when we can really see true change.
Right. Any last words, Catie?
Just have fun with life. And I don't know, I have fun with life. I'm sure Lori does. I'm sure everyone does. And to really think about tomorrow. Think about tomorrow. Think about what tomorrow brings. And when tomorrow comes, think about what tomorrow will bring.
It's good advice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Just
you
came
for
up with
that.
it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Lori, Susan, anything else?
I just want to, I appreciate NAMI New Hampshire's support. Every turn, you know, there wasn't a program, and now there is. And that wouldn't be possible without the Garrett Lee Smith people, without NAMI New Hampshire. Just, you know, all the questions that I had were always answered, and that same level of kindness has been extended to all of us that are working in the program, and I think the collaboration has just been great.
Well, we appreciate you and all the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, most definitely. I appreciate all three of you. This has been really a fascinating conversation, and I'm very grateful to you all for your work. So
Thanks.
there's a whole lot of hope in this room.
Absolutely.
And I want to just remind folks that if you or someone you know might be at risk of suicide, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 1-800-273-8255, or you can text the crisis text line at 741-741. Again, those are resources that are available 24/7. Just a couple more things. One thing to put on your calendars on October 8th will be the 20th annual NAMI Walks New Hampshire. That is New Hampshire's single largest mental health and suicide awareness raising event. It's free to register. You can go online and do that. Please join us so that we can work together to combat stigma and discrimination and make sure everyone has access to the care that they need. Another thing that if folks are interested, they can check out our website, reach out to Susan, and learn more about the Connect program. We're always welcome new partners and look forward to helping other communities. And as Susan mentioned as well, the NAMI New Hampshire website has a number of resources from peer support groups for those living with mental illness to support groups for folks who have an adult loved one with a mental illness, and parents and support groups for parents and caregivers of youth with mental health challenges. We also have a number of listings for support groups for survivors of suicide loss, so you can check that out on our website, as well as our education programs that run the gamut from peer-to-peer, which is a program for adults living with mental illness. They taught by trained individuals with lived experience who teach that course, family to family, which is for families who have an adult loved one living with a mental illness, and NAMI Basics for parents or caregivers raising a child with mental health challenges. So please check out our website, and please remember that one of the best things you can do is reach out for help when you need it. Indeed, as Catie said, it's okay not to be okay. Be kind to each other and take good care.